Welcome to The Artist Remains, a channel that explores creativity, consciousness, authenticity, and human connection in an age increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence. I'm curator and artist P.E. Pinkman. Today, we're going to dig deeper into art, artists, and AI with writer, critic, and musician Tris McCall. Hi, Tris. If you could spend a minute, just talk about yourself and give our audience an understanding of where you come from in this world.
I come from Jersey City. I come from New Jersey. I've lived in New Jersey my whole life, and I've been a writer in New Jersey pretty much my whole life. For more than 25 years, I've been a writer as my job. That's what I've done. But in addition to the writing that I've done for my job, I've also done so much writing that's just for me. So I've written professionally, I've written just for my own amusement. And that's really what I do. I do that all day. I've also been lucky enough to make a lot of records, some under my own name, some with other musicians. And so I do that when I can, but primarily what I'm doing is I'm writing. I write. I've written for newspapers for a long time, for magazines, for internet publications, just a lot of any place where someone will take my writing. I've tended, if it's in New Jersey, I've tended to get it in there.
Cool. It's sort of interesting to me. We both have this multi-talented, multi-pronged approach to our lives, which is, you're a musician and you're involved in the visual arts world, and you're a writer, and I'm a painter, and I'm a curator, and I'm a administrator. And it's like, it's all good, but it definitely takes up a lot of time. So I'm going to jump right in and ask, do you use artificial intelligence for anything yourself?
I don't use it, and I just can't really even conceive of any reason why I would use it. And I guess to explain why, I have to talk about what I do when I write.
Mm-hmm.
I write because I go and I see something, or I hear something. I'll walk into a gallery and I'll see something, or I'll put on a record and I'll hear something, or something in the community will strike me. And I'll feel a very powerful emotion, really powerful. And I'll be like, something just happened to me. Then I go home and I try to figure out what happened to me. And the means by which I figure out what happened to me is by writing about it. I understand the world around me. I understand what I've done, the parameters of my community by writing. So if I were to use artificial intelligence, it feels like it would defeat the purpose completely, because I wouldn't be on that search. I hope that there is discovery, that you can feel the discovery when you're reading what I write, because that's really what's happening. I'm discovering what I think in real time as I sit there and I write something out. Using any kind of computer intervention there, I love computers, but using any kind of computer intervention there would really defeat the purpose for me, because it wouldn't feel like writing anymore. It would feel like writing to me is discovering what I think, or why I had the reaction to something that I did.
Has your awareness of or engagement with artificial intelligence changed at all in the last year? Are you more aware of it? Or, is it somehow sort of coming into your field of consciousness in the field of writing and music and such? Or
I feel like we're in a cycle where people keep talking about it, but I'm waiting to feel it in a real way. People keep talking about it as an inevitability, something that's going to come, like a giant that's in the mountains that's about to come down and transform
right,
things. You
exactly.
have to understand that my whole life I've been discouraged from writing. People have told me, you're not gonna be able to make a living doing this, so do something else. And people would say, like, the newspapers, they aren't gonna be around for a long time. Magazines, these are all going.
Right.
Don't write a book. No one's reading anymore. Don't do this. This has felt very much to me like the latest iteration of that same discouraging discourse. And I feel like I've been doing this for a really long time now. Like, if it was going to happen, that one of these will probably take me out, right? Maybe it's
Right.
artificial intelligence. I don't know. Like, I have been warned since I was 10 years old that my interest in writing vocationally is unrealistic and unsustainable, and I've sustained it this far. So I don't really worry about it that much. As for whether it's going to come down and transform the field that I'm in, or newspapers, when we've been dealing with all kinds of vexations in
Right.
newspapers and print and on the internet, and all kinds of stuff that seem to be marginalizing and pushing out the writer, or pushing out original voices. And this could be another one, or it could not be. I don't know anybody personally who has been pushed off their job because of artificial intelligence. I don't feel a lot of the newspapers that I've written for and the publications that I've written for are not around any longer. I don't think that
Right.
has anything to do with artificial intelligence. I feel like in each case it's been different, but that's been the case straight across the country. Most of the big newspapers are either slashing staff, slashing the newsroom staff, or
Or
they're
closed altogether. Yeah.
yeah, or closing altogether. So this might be the year where I really feel it, but so far I have not really felt it, and it doesn't really affect me very much as a writer because, as I said, it's so not what I do. I can imagine other people who do journalism might feel differently, but
Right.
the NJ Arts and the Jersey City Times and NJ Stage and the other publications that I've written for and that I'm writing for right now, I don't think anybody involved in those publications uses this stuff, and I think they would probably frown on
Are
people
are
using it.
you aware of the artists and musicians that you associate with and talk to and see? Are they talking about AI, or is it really just a media hype thing? Like, are you experiencing it from other artists?
Musicians are very scared that AI is going to take out musicians are very worried about AI music taking the place of what you might call conventional music.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know whether it's really happened. I mean, there are my fruit stand plays a channel when you walk in there. It's clearly AI music. It's all music that it sounds like it kind of came straight out of a can. But you
Right.
wouldn't really want to listen to this music. I feel like the burden of proof is on the people who are hyping this stuff up, right? Like, so if you're
Right.
hyping this, if you're saying this is going to transform everything, this is going to totally change everything. Well, point to something that will impress me. I'm not hard to impress. I'm actually pretty easy to impress. Impress me, blow me away with something. The music that I've heard that has been done by is just not interesting. It's not
Yeah.
it
That's
is
true.
really not interesting. And until they show me the song that was written by one of these by an LLM or written by a computer and performed by a computer. And I'm like, well, that's really dope. I don't think that it's something that it's still in the show. I'm still in the show me stage about music. As for writing, it's sort of a bigger issue because people really enjoy listening to music. Writing it's a harder sell.
Right.
It's harder to sell people on reading your writing, but I don't think that people enjoy reading pieces that are artificial intelligence generated. That may be totally out of school that I'm talking about might not be true, but I don't get the sense that people like it when they learn that what they've been reading was somebody pressed a button and it was outputted. I don't think that people think that that's kosher. I think people kind of rebel against it, and I don't think we've seen the value yet. No one has pointed to me yet and said, like, because we have this technology, we're improving our ability to do this or that. I
Right.
just haven't seen it yet. Yeah, yeah.
I guess for me, it touches on this question of what is originality, right? And is that something that is perceptible, right? Can you perceive as either a performer or a creator or an audience member something that has real originality, that spark from something that's just generated as a result of looking at everything else? I wonder if you thought about that idea.
I think so far, yes. I think that so far it has been I feel in 2026 there's been a big backlash against things that are transparently generated by artificial intelligence, whether
Yeah.
it's images on the internet kind of clogging up people's feeds or it's music that just sounds like everything else. Like, why is this on my playlist when I could have an actual band that I could have a human relationship with? So I think for now, we are able to discern the difference between something that was made by people and something that was made by one of these programs. Now, of course, I could be totally fooled by this. My favorite albums from last year, I don't know if I don't know the people who made them personally. Could they have been outputted by AI? I guess it's possible. But the thing that I think is telling, to me at least, is that I love what we're really talking about here is we're talking about automating productivity in composition, right? And there's a lot of ways you can do that. I'm a fan of progressive rock. I love my favorite band is Yes. Yes was the early adopters of synthesizers.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, of course.
Tony Kaye was the original organist from Yes. It was a wonderful B3 stylist, was pitched out of the band because he didn't want to use synthesizers. So
Interesting.
progressive music has always been at the forefront of incorporating new technologies. And you saw that in the 80s because who was using drum machines at first? It was Phil Collins, it was Marvin Gaye, and with Africa Bambaataa. These guys were using drum machines. Even when you get into what happened with hip hop and sampling, and then
Sampling.
into the
Exactly what
beginning
was on my mind. Yeah.
yeah, in the beginning of the 21st century, you had Kanye West making a what I consider a masterpiece of an album with what is colloquially known as auto-tune software, which is 808s and Heartbreak. It was a brilliant album in which he took this technology, right? And he made a great album with it, a really, really great album. And there were no bones about any of that stuff. If you asked Phil Collins what he was doing when he made In the Air Tonight, he would say, well, I've got a drum part and then I have I think it was a TR 909. I don't think it was an 808. I think it was a 909 that he used, but he was using a drum machine, right? At Marvin
Right,
Gaye,
right, right.
he was using a drum machine. And he was like, I'm using a drum machine. Everybody, Prince Paul, who did all that all those sample collages, was like, I'm sampling. That's how we're making these De La Soul records. Nobody wants to say if people are using LLMs, if people are using artificial intelligence to generate music and they're great artists, nobody wants to say that they're doing it. And I find that a little bit suspicious because usually artists want to say, yes, I'm using this technology, but I'm the master of this technology. Usually they'll say that. I thought that Kanye would do that this year. Now, Kanye got himself into all kinds of hot water because he made very offensive music. But he came back with a new album this year, and I thought, well, maybe this is the album where Kanye West uses artificial intelligence to make interesting music. But I don't think that that's what this album is, and if it is, that's not what he's saying that it is. So I just it makes me
Well, and it's the
suspicious.
question is, do
Yeah.
we know? Can we tell? Right. And this is true in the visual arts as well. I mean, I think a lot of artists believe that they can tell when something is made by artificial intelligence. But I think that that's changing very quickly, that it's getting harder to tell, like, what aspect of it. What you're touching on is really interesting, which is artists using artificial intelligence as another tool in the same way that they used computers as tools
Yeah.
versus artificial intelligence generating something, quote unquote, itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where does that go, right?
Yeah. Well, I think about the artists that I know in Jersey City or the artists I've written about in New Jersey, and it's hard for me to believe that these artists are using artificial intelligence to make the art they do. First of all, we do so many studio visits. I know you do studio visits as well. You can see them making the work. And
Right.
part of the performance I've learned of making art and hanging it in a gallery, that's part of it. You go in and you see what they do and you can see them in action and you see their human labor. You see their originality as it is expressed. You see them translate emotions and thoughts into strokes on a canvas. And this is all very human. It's a human reaction to what's happening to them. So we've seen this happen. So it would really surprise me if anybody who I wrote about, who I've written about recently, used artificial intelligence to make what they did. Now, there's the other question, which is, did they use artificial intelligence to workship what they did? Did they
Right.
try
There you
a
go.
bunch of stuff and like, well, this is good, and so let me
Yeah,
pursue that.
exactly.
And that may be that they may be doing that, but the difference is no one's owning up to it. Nobody's
Right.
saying, no one's saying I'm using artificial intelligence I'm using the computer to generate my ideas. So it's like,
Well, look at how long it took for artists to acknowledge that they were using computers to help with their work. I
yeah,
mean, for years and years and years, you would never see a computer in an artist's studio.
right,
And yet you would know from how they were producing things that they were definitely referencing computers and probably using them. Now, it's
right.
very common to go into an artist's studio and see a computer there. And they're exactly what you're saying. They're workshopping, they're designing, they're creating, whatever the right word is, to make the preparatory work to get to the place where they produce their final piece, right?
Yeah. Which could well be true for a lot of the artists
Right. I
I've written.
wonder, right?
I do wonder. Now, I recently did a project with the portraitist Ben Fine. Ben Fine is really good at doing portraits. And the project that we did was I interviewed the sitter while Ben was making a portrait. And what I got to
Interesting.
see was very interesting. What I got to see was I got to see the full range of what you do when you put a painting together, because I've written so much about art, but always written about it from the perspective of somebody who just goes into the gallery and sees the art on the wall and then
Right.
right from there. I got to see somebody doing basically looking, observing, thinking, mixing,
Yeah.
translating, and making the painting come to life during the course of me conducting this interview. The whole thing was very human, and it was very much not anything that was guided by anybody on the outside of that room. It was definitely it happened within the room where we were doing this, what we were calling the Pink Armchair series, and we're probably going to keep on doing that. And I really suspect that most of the artists that we know in New Jersey are still doing it that way. Now, if there's a younger generation of artists who are Ben is my age, so he's been at it for a long time.
Right.
There may be a younger generation who are taking a completely different approach to this, but I just haven't seen it yet. They have to, wave at me and say, "This is what I'm doing."
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. Would
I'll
that
come
be
and
kind
check
of
it out,
like
and
fun
I
to
haven't
see
seen it.
somebody actually own up to it, you
Yeah,
know? It'd be kind of fascinating to have that conversation.
yeah.
So, if you can produce stuff as you're talking about, right? You can potentially produce music, you can produce art, you can produce writing using AI, whether AI does the whole thing or a portion of it. What do you think is the valuable piece that's underneath that? Like, what is it that the artist is bringing? And I know that's a very difficult question, but it really is kind of the question. I always feel that it's something that's perceptible but difficult to define. I'm curious what you think.
Well, for me, art always happens within the context of a community. So there's an artist community here. There's an artist community in New Jersey, and we know these people. You go and you meet them, and you're having a conversation with them. And largely, what they're doing when they're making the art that they're doing is they've felt something, and they have to say something.
Yeah.
They have to translate that feeling into something on the page or something in the recording studio. And then this is your neighbor who has spent all this time making this thing. And your responsibility, the only responsibility that you have as a neighbor is to have a human reaction, a fully human reaction to what it is that you're saying. So that's where it goes. So where does the computer come in all that, or where does the LLM come in and all of that? I don't know, because you could still maybe do that within the context of the community, but the important thing is that the person and the human relationship is still there. I was lucky enough to be part of a couple of rock scenes, pop scenes. Very lucky to be part of the pop rock scene in New York and the O's, and a couple in New Jersey. And
Cool.
what it was all about was I listened to your music and you listen to mine. You know me, and this is what I have to say, and I know you, and this is what you have to say. If you start homogenizing everything and putting it through a big filter, and then you output something that might sound good, I don't really understand what the point of that is. Like, the whole
Right,
point is
right,
that
right.
real connection with a real person, and for me to have a real human reaction to that. So when I'm doing the writing about it, or if I'm writing a song that's responding to somebody else's song, or if I'm writing an article that's responding to someone's work, you have that. So what is it that makes it unique? What is the originality? What is the mark of originality? Do you just know it when you see it? I feel like the thing that makes it, the thing that you know when you see it, you can go the other way. You know it. You know aggregation when you see it. You
Right.
know. You know the funneling down and distilling and summarizing and setting this up when you see it. And part of the reason that you know it when you see it is because, in my experience, the LLMs and all of the AI software basically runs on the same engagement model that social media does. They
Yep.
want you to like them and keep using them. So when you go there, they kind of butter you up. Like,
Yeah,
like
they do.
writing these things like, that's a really brilliant question. You know what I mean? Like, it's like corny, right? But it's like that. They want to butter you up because they want you to keep on using it. So there's this kind of unctuousness about it. And you see that
Right.
in all forms of AI art. There's a kind of slipperiness, a kind of sliminess to it, where it's like it feels very much like everything has kind of been spit polished around the outside and sanded down, and you're just getting this kind of meat and potatoes thing that satisfies the basic requirements. And if you think about what aggregation is, that's really what aggregation is. That's what it is. You're going to get the very basic. You're going to get the very least common denominator version of things. Now, I was talking to Kara, my girlfriend, earlier today, and she
Hmm.
was about how now with very sophisticated AIs, you can tweak it and get weirdness, and you can ask for a
Oh, yeah.
little human touch, give me a little weirdness. Again, I believe it when I see it. Give me the song that shows me that. Because what has always been true about music, and I always bring it back to music because this is what I know. What's always been true about music is that you don't see it coming. You don't know that you didn't know you wanted Kendrick Lamar. You didn't know that you didn't know that that was going to happen. That wasn't
Right.
some, you know what? You didn't know that that was going to come and overturn everything. Even somebody, like last year, an album that I absolutely loved was Bloodless by Samia. Did Samia use artificial intelligence to make her Samia? Did she use artificial intelligence to make her record? I don't know. The important thing is that her lyrics were really weird. She's singing about all kinds of really strange stuff that could only have come from a strange human brain, from a strange human soul, from a human soul that's had the particular marks of damage and contours that happen when you move through the world and you take on water. And that's what I don't think they've been able to program into the computers yet. I don't think
Not
I don't
yet, but
see
I
it.
wonder, that sort of feels like where it's going, right? They're
Yeah,
trying to approach that point, and I think if
yeah,
there's any basic reason to be fearful of it, is that if they succeed in getting large language models to include the unpredictable and somewhat irascible and often chaotic nature of human
yeah.
thinking and human feeling, then we could really be in trouble, because it may output really great art, but it also may do a lot of equally unpleasant things as people do, you know?
As a journalist, this is what I want to say about this. You will never meet the LLM at the grocery store. You will
Right,
never run into the LLM on a concert stage. You will not go and have the kind of relationship that you could have with a person in your community. You will never have that experience with the computer. And if you never have that experience with the computer, you're missing so much of what art is, because art is about the connections that we forge with each other within a community. It's about talking to each other. I walk into the room and I see something. I'm like, holy I'm like,
right.
I gotta write about this, and it's gonna be weird, and the words are gonna come out funny, and I'm gonna battle with every sentence to make sure I can get it the way that I want it to be, but it's gonna be mine, just like that was theirs. That's the
Right,
thing that just by the nature of it, you're never gonna get. You're never gonna trip over them in the street. The element is never gonna go out putting up posters. It's, I mean, somebody could do
right,
it for them, but like, you're not gonna have all of the richness that we think of when we think of artistic production, and that's richness that go around music, around literature, around filmed entertainment, and even stuff on the internet. If there is not a human being who's part of a community who's behind it, if it's just, we threw we scraped all the stuff, we threw all this human activity into a hopper and output something, you're missing. I don't see why you would even do it. I feel like you'd be missing out you'd be missing out on like half the fun of doing this stuff. So yeah, that's kind of why I have a
There's an interesting segue here, that the artist I interviewed, not last time, but prior, maybe 2 weeks ago, is a San Francisco artist named Nate Mahoney. And it's interesting that you talk about community, because for Nate, this is exactly the same thing that he focuses on in his work. He created something called the AI Cafe. And the AI Cafe was precisely this. It's like taking the whole thing and turning it on its head.
Mhm.
So he had a bunch of his friends. He created a fake actual Google Maps location. He had a bunch of his friends review it poorly, so that it actually showed up on Google Maps. And when you went there, the theory behind what you saw was that you could order a coffee online through this AI cafe. But when you dialed the phone number, that's all it was, it would go to a text message. And instead of getting an AI, you would get Nate. And so you would be talking to Nate via text without knowing whether you were talking to an artificial intelligence or a person. And then you would never get coffee. What you would get was conversation.
I see, yeah, and then that's a good bait and switch, I like that, so
Right? I mean, so it's like,
yeah,
it's exactly, because for him, it's the same idea, right? The community is so important in what makes art human,
yeah,
what makes us people. We have to have connection. And it seems like, certainly I would, speaking for him here, and maybe for you as well, is that so much is driving us away from that. That these are the things that keep driving us back toward it, which is
yeah.
the creation and development of original work. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it almost doesn't matter, right?
I look, I'm really not a Luddite. I love computers. I've played synthesizers, really since I was young. I love all this. I love all of this technology, and I love applying technology to artistic projects. So I
Right.
don't say this stuff because I'm not down on this stuff because I want to go back to the woods by any stretch of the imagination. That's not at all how how it strikes me. It's just more that I don't want to lose what's so valuable about these forms of art, all of which kind of coalesce around different communities. When I was a young person, my entire life was geared around the idea one day I might play at Maxwell's. I would go to Maxwell's in Hoboken. I would go to Maxwell's. I would see the shows. I would see the Feelies. I would see Yola Tango, the Cucumbers, and all those bands that played there. And I'd talk to them after the show, and I'd want to go and be part of that. And it was clear that there was a community of musicians who were working on different projects. And you'd go and you'd get the ticket, the physical ticket at Pierre Platter's, and then you'd go to the show and you'd save the ticket. And there's set lists. There was the actual experience of being in the club and dancing to the
Right.
music, feeling it in your body. And all of this is stuff that sometimes gets a little lost because it's so easy to use computers. And computers are really wonderful, and making art with computers is great, and making music with computers is great. But that is really, for me at least, the core of the experience and the core of the motivation to be part of that, to hear that stuff, and then to compose my own thing. What do
Right.
I have to do with this? And I got my own thing that I might potentially have to say. So again, it would completely defeat to me, it completely defeats the purpose of all of it to involve, to not have the struggle of trying to figure out, to trying to find a way for what it is that you want to say, and doing that through trial and error by really fighting it out through all the sweat that you do when you're in the studio. And it's a little disrespectful, I think, some of the artificial intelligence discourse to the work that I see artists do, because artists bust their butts doing the
It's
stuff that
true.
they do. Yeah, and when they do, and again, it's what I said before, when someone has busted their butt to communicate with you, to say something to you, your responsibility as a neighbor is to listen and to have a human reaction that's completely yours. Doesn't matter if the reaction is going to piss somebody off, or it's going to be, or if it seems weird, or if it's not in line with conventional wisdom. It's got to be your reaction. You owe that to the artist who gave you something, who gave you all that time, spent all that time making this installation. So yeah, that's what I think about that.
So, since we're kind of coming up on 30 minutes, I wonder if you would just tell us what you're doing. Like, what's happening in your world? What are you creating? What are you writing?
Last year, I got a grant to do a website that was specific to art in Jersey City. So
Wow,
I did 53,
congratulations.
yeah, it was good. I did 53 reviews of art shows in Jersey City. Since then, I've done 7 more for this year, but that grant was really for last year. This year,
Hmm.
I found myself writing a lot about theater and dance because just the focus of the publication, but I've done a lot of
Right.
writing about visual arts. I keep writing for NJ Arts, and I just did a performance about two weeks ago of a program that I call Tris McCall Story Hour, which is I have a I did a writing exercise in 2015 and 2016 around the time when I felt that the country was kind of sliding into some kind of really belligerent state, and I didn't know where I was going to fit in that. It turns out it wound up worse than I thought it was going to be, but I wrote a lot of songs and stories, and my idea was to try to make it a true multimedia experience where I wrote the song and the story at the same time. So the narrator of
Cool.
of the story is also the narrator of the song. So we did one. We've now done 3 story hours. The one that we did the bookstore here in Jersey City, the Word Bookstore.
Fantastic.
We did a story called Malik, which is a baseball story set in Richmond, Virginia. And the next one that we're going to do is going to be a story called Gus, which is going to be like, I think, the big guns. I really like that story a lot. So I want the, but it's how do you get people to read? How do you get people to pay attention to storytelling in 2026 at a time when it's
Right.
hard to get sustained engagement on a story? And I think that if I make everybody show up and I sit there and I play songs and I sing and I also tell the story with some friends and we maybe have some special effects that we can make it go over. We did one last year that I thought went over very nicely. So this format, I've been enjoying it as a performance format, the
Hmm.
story, and I think I'm going to keep on doing it because I think it's a good context in which to engage with both my songs and my short stories. I've always I love music. It would be very dishonest for me not to have done a lot of music in my life, but I've always been a writer first, and a
Right.
musician is a and I'm a musician because I love music and I love doing music and I love writing music. I love writing songs, but my songs are very wordy. They feel in many ways like an extension of my writing. They're the sort of songs that that a writer might write, and I don't necessarily mean that in a good way, but I've written a lot of them, and I think putting them in the context of a short story that I believe in and that I can present to the community is a good way to access me and my weird brain. I don't think anyone has ever thought that anything that I did was artificial intelligence or copied because I'm pretty odd. I'm pretty weird. And I think they also probably think that they understand that writing is such a big part of the process of my day. It's kind of like breathing. I wake up, I get to the computer, I start
I
writing.
think that's one of the things that I would characterize as the human premium, the thing that people bring is that
Yeah.
weirdness. I think
Yes.
that definitely falls
Yes.
right in line with, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's that." You
And
know?
all the great scenes, art scenes, music scenes, all the great scenes have been filled with weirdos and they've been
Yeah,
magnets for strange people. Strange people flock from all over the place to be part of it because they know that they can get a legitimate human reaction for what they're doing, and they're not just gonna be looked at funny. So
right.
yes, I think that that is really very I think that's invaluable. Yeah,
When's your next performance or event?
that's a good
Do you have
question.
anything on the books right now?
No, no, nothing's on the books right
Okay.
now. I was kind of this summer, I don't know if I'm gonna well, we're supposed to do another story hour in Brooklyn, but I don't have the date for it yet. So I
Okay,
don't
well, we'll
yeah,
we'll
I
list
don't
all of your links at the end, and, people can look you up and then follow you, so
yes, yeah.
well, thank you. This is great. It's what I hoped it would be, which is it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the years and having these sort of wandering, great, insightful conversations. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate getting the opportunity to talk about this stuff. And it is funny because it's something that is definitely in the news, but it's not really something that I talk about very much. It's not something that kind of
Yeah.
comes up but it's still in my mind because I talk about it with Kara here at home. She is a college professor and she has
Uh,
seen the roughest side of artificial intelligence, as far as I can tell, which is that you got all these kids who are basically cheating their way through school because they're not writing their papers anymore. They're just doing artificial intelligence. They're doing
right.
ChatGPT to and it makes you, if you're a professor, there's nothing more demoralizing than sitting there and you realize paragraph or two into it, like, man, I'm grading something that came out of a computer. I'm grading a computer. Like that's
Right. Exactly. It's a ridiculous state. Yep.
I don't think that I think that the institution that is in the biggest trouble with this stuff is education. I think that
Education.
they really need to figure out what to do about this because that's the thing that's gonna go belly up, because people aren't gonna if you can skate through school by just pressing a button, then what the hell are you even doing there? They're
Right.
going to lose the whole thing unless they figure out how to deal with this stuff, and that's so that I do think is
Well, maybe I
that
should have her on the channel.
yeah, I
It'd be
think
interesting. It'd be an interesting conversation because it's
you
very
know.
much a piece of this same puzzle, right?
Yes. She's way more interesting than I am. So, yes. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we will talk again soon. And thanks again. Take care.